So, as discussed, I gave a little bit introduction last week about what we will be talking today, and I plan to cover this for the material is vast.
There is some static.
3 or 4 sessions. Somebody saying something online?
Yeah, there is some static noise in the background.
So the topic is the whole talk is completely based on the 2 books, which is called The Lives of Alchemy, written by Annie Besant and Whither. So the aspects in this book is they talk through the process or different lives of alchemy, which is the soul name of J. Krishnamurti. And we'll get into the details of how it started about and everything. But the aspect that I want you all to focus here is, this is as good as reading any fiction book, right? It's just a bunch of stories. 48 stories you get to read through, quite fascinating, quite eventful, ton of events happening. Sometimes it's more fascinating than any fiction or anybody can imagine. And things that we think that only happens in movies or something, you can see this playing out in real life. And the fun part is they just, like Annie Besant and Whither, have gone to great lengths to give us the time period when this is happening, and how these group of people are constantly interacting life after life. What is the purpose of this interaction? Apart from that, we can focus, or I want you to focus a lot on the laws of karma and reincarnation, which is so plainly laid out if you follow the journey of these people closely. Now, to enjoy this journey and to get the maximum out of it, I would appreciate that you remember the names. Like going forward, like we can take a few minutes, I'll pull up that slide for you. So if you can associate the names with the people that we know, some of the society members, like what is Annie Besant's soul name? Now, in Life After Life, we see that she's taking birth. Along with her, Whither, Master KH, Master Maurya, J. Krishnamurti, it's just called The Lives of Alchemy, but you see this group of individuals taking birth together again and again. And we are not going to address them by this lifetime's name, which we are very familiar with. So the way they addressed this was, first they started off with doing a clairvoyant vision and trying to find out, going over regression and finding out lives of J. Krishnamurti. They saw that there were a group of these souls commonly coming together. Then they expanded their research, Annie Besant and Whither, to see, okay, let's see who else we know in this group of people, because we see few people are coming down. And they went on looking and looking and looking. Finally, they found or identified around approximately 250 people associated in one way or the other with the Theosophical Society. And they had been working together, and it's so fascinating to see how they interact with each other and they grow. At the same time, they fall off the grid, and somewhere like 10,000 years later, they pop up again and they are interacting with the same soul group again. So it'll be interesting to, so what they did was, to keep track of the soul, they gave a name, they gave a soul name. That means it's not what you are, your name is in this one lifetime, it's a name you are identified all through different lifetimes. So if I say alchemy, it's a soul name or a star name, they say, given to J. Krishnamurti. Now I will pull up the list of the other people's names. So try to remember the main character's name. So the main character's name I have highlighted in the slide. You can go through that and share it with you later on too. So if you can remember those names, then immediately if I say, okay, Sirius is born here and Sirius is married to Selena, then you should know who is Sirius and who is Selena. And then the next time I say, okay, Selena is now married to Nizar, now you know who Nizar is. So, because previously Nizar was his mom or dad or in previous incarnations. So, if you can kind of relate to that, it will be fun to see and observe how this journey of these souls are evolving. Apart from enjoying the story part of it, this is mostly going to be a story like, narrating a small short stories kind of. But at the same time, the bottom line I want you to focus is the law of karma, how the karma is working to make these souls spiritually evolve, and also the law of incarnation. What is the law that is guiding us? So, Annie Besant, I'll come to that later, Annie Besant clearly says that much as they invested a lot of time on doing this research, it was not easy. As she lays out further, I'll show her own words, what she says about how much work went into these things. She says the only reason for them to invest this much time into writing these books, there's 4 volumes they wrote. The first 2 volumes were the 48 lives of J. Krishnamurti, but before that, they wrote the lives of Erasio and Life of Orion. Actually, it started off with those 2, and then it kind of shifted into alchemy, and they kind of went into this writing big lectures. They started mapping out, and they thought that they were running out of space. People used to sit and write long, big sheets of family tree to see how interestingly they were all interconnected and kind of provide us to understand how our growth might also be happening, and kind of with that understand where we stand, and we did have a history, and we definitely will have a future as an organization of souls that we are growing together. With that introduction, let me jump to the next slide. The beginning of the inquiry, right? So, in the words of Annie Besant, 20 years ago, So this journey, how it started about, she gives a nice and interesting backdrop to us. 20 years ago, our attention was attracted to the lives of Erasio. The first series that we examined, a series of 17 incarnations with rather unusual long intervals between them, not violently eventful, but moving with exemplary regularity through the successive sub-races. So, to begin with how this started was Erasio, I kind of forget his name right now, I'm not able to recall, but he's one of the prominent members of the Theosophical Society who worked with the founding fathers and also was closely associated with C.W. Leadbeater and Annie Besant. So it so happened one day he had a dream. He had a dream that in the dream what he saw was he was on top of a small hill or something, and he's wearing this white robes, stretching his arms out, and he's kind of praying like a priest. He felt like he was some important member. He's praying, and he could see a lot of people, listening to him. And when he woke up, when he was actually going through this dream, it never felt to him that it was a dream. It felt very real as his current life, whatever he's experiencing. So this kind of fascinated him, is how can I be having this vivid, or it's not imagination, it's not dream, it's vivid memory of something that is happening, but conscious mind, I'm not able to recall anything. So he goes to Leadbeater and he asks him, see, this is what I dreamt. I don't know whether it's a dream, it's a thought, it's a memory, I don't know where, but this is so vivid in my brain. Can you explain in terms of theosophy what this means? So Leadbeater was Leadbeater by that time, he was clairvoyant. He had the capacity for regression, looking into the back, everything, and he kind of looked with clairvoyantly, and he said, oh yeah, this is nothing, it's not a dream, it's definitely your subconscious memory which you have forgotten in the awakening state, but it's part of your unconscious or subconscious memory that you, in the past lifetime, you were a priest, and you did have this major role you played in uniting your community and being a leader, and you were like a religious priest, and for many years you did serve as the head priest of that community. So that was one of the sermons kind of addressing your people. That's what is stuck in your brain because you had a very profound experience in that lifetime, and now you're able to recall it. So he gets very intrigued by that, and he's like, can you tell me more? So now, having clairvoyant capacities doesn't mean that they can just go in and check anybody's lifetimes, right? So Vidya asked him, so you need to give me permission that I can examine, because I don't want to put my talent or my energies to use without your permission. It's going to be not a good karma for me. So he says, yes, you have my permission, go ahead, do whatever you want, just find out and write it down. And then that's when he writes down a series of 17 incarnations, and that's the third volume of this book, right? But that in first. So 17 incarnation, he lists down all the people that he's associated with, all his lifetimes in very detail about who he married, who his kids were, his parents were, what did he learn in that lifetime, everything. And then that was about it. And 14 years later, the next long series examined was the 24 lives of Orion. Now, with respect to Erasho, his life was quite uneventful. Uneventful means he is growing at a very calm pace. There is no major bumps and downs or anything happening. But when they examine the life of Orion, who's again another soul who's associated with the initial stages of the Theosophical Society, they found that he was a very interesting soul because he was not a smooth ride. He sometimes progresses very fast spiritually. His lifetime, he gets into certain relationships and he's very angry. He kills somebody, and then he's like going through falling out of the soul group because he accumulates lots of bad karma, and then he gets into all sorts of mischiefs, all sorts of troubles. So it's like a curve. And when they saw the life of Orion, they find, oh, this is quite interesting. Look at him. He did so much bad karma and how he had to pay for it. He had done so much bad karma. At one point, he was thrown into a forest full of spiders, and he was alive, and his body had to be eaten by big spiders because that's how much bad his karma was. And he suffered through that for the next few lifetimes. That memory of it kind of was in his subconscious brain, and he kind of overcomes that. And at the same time, he makes rapid spiritual progresses too. At the same time, he's so tempestuous that he does a bad thing at the same time, equally. So you see how the laws of karma is working. 2 years later, the investigation of lives of alchemy was commenced, and a series of 30 lives was published in the Theosophist. So this is happening not 1 day, 2 days, like first 20 years ago, then 14 years, then almost a span of, you can see here, 30 years is happening. All this work is coming together. In the course of different series of researches made in connection with the foundings of subraces, we discovered that the group of servers already in existence at the early period of history. We came across them as far back as 70,000 BC, and again 60,000, 42,000, 38,000, and 32,000. So I'll come to the point of what are the group of servers a little bit later, but these are a group of people who are picked to do a certain task. As our previous inquiries had taken as far back as 22,600 years, so when she says 22,600 years, that is the first work they did on understanding the life of J. Krishnamurti, which was 30 lives. The past 30 lives took them 22,600 years back. After that, they were doing a research on studying the subraces, how the subraces of the fifth root race and second, the one which we discussed a few weeks back, right? So when they were doing a study on that, then they found that, oh, wait a minute, these people are even extending way back, and that's when they went all the way back until 70,000 years back. That's when they see a glimpse of these souls popping up. So that was a little bit how the book started off. Now, intention behind the publication what was the intention that, now all these, please bear in mind that none of these are my words, I just copy-pasted the important parts from the book. These are words of Anne Besant. Beautiful, I didn't want to rewrite them or anything, because the way she structures them, the sentences and the amount of information she packs in each sentence is beautiful, so I just kept it as is. These accounts of the past are not printed merely as good stories, though they are often that, but as lessons in the working of karma, life after life, full of instructions for the student and helpful for the realization of the continuity of human life. Much of the workings of karma may be learned by a study of a series of lives. We see the interrelations of individuals, the results of benefits and injuries, the links that draw the egos together, the repulsions that drive them apart, life after life. So this is the intention that she saw. It is worthwhile for us to understand how the souls will be associating, how they help each other at the same time, how they injure each other, the links that draws them together and the repulsions that drive them apart, life after life. So she says that this is my intention of publishing that, and you should as such take it as such. The second point is so beautiful. I just left it there as is, every word that she has written. We notice the epochs in which great groups of related egos are formed. Their scattering for centuries, millennia, their reunion and fresh scatterings, and out of the whole grows a sense of security and overruling guidance, of wisdom that plans, of powers that executes. So what she's saying here is that this great group of egos meaning the souls, they are united together, and at the same time, for centuries they get scattered. For thousands of years they don't meet. They are individually growing in different groups. But at the same time, when there is a need, the Manu pulls them all together, makes them incarnate at the same place, and then at the same time, he creates a certain bonding and creation, a law of attraction between them. The work of those group of people is served, and then he lets them go. They do their own individual growth, and he pulls it. This happens again and again and again. So it's interesting to see what conditions this group of people have picked up, and where do we stand in that scheme, right? So she says that there is a overruling guidance. That means there is somebody who's guiding all our lives. When you see how these souls are guided, we can also be rest assured that our lives are also guided in the same way. Of wisdom that plans, that is, there is a higher wisdom which is planning our lives. Of powers that execute, of the certain working out of a great purpose. And she says that all this, even our lives, it's working out a great purpose. We cannot see it in this one lifetime. So don't be blinded that, okay, what is the purpose of my life? I'm just born, I'm eating, I'm doing this, I did that, I'm dying, I really don't understand. So there's nothing to despair. Only when you see from a very high point of that power and that will that is working through us, then you can see the beauty of it. Of agents chosen, tested, accepted or dropped, opportunities offered, utilized, rejected, of a sure onward evolution amid complexity of ebbs and flows. So beautifully she packed the whole purpose of our life into one sentence, that we are given opportunities, we don't utilize them sometimes, we do utilize them sometimes, we get rejected, and at the same time, this power, she says, is always pushing us on an onward journey, on an onward evolutionary process. A feeling of strength and dignity grows up with the reader as he thinks, I too have a long past stretching behind me, I too have a vast future stretching in front of me. So if we can get to that deep understanding that we don't have to feel despair, there is a history for us, and there is going to be a future for us, and there is a greater power which is guiding, And she says that these masters are moving you like pawns on a chessboard. You don't know why you're being moved to a certain block, but you have a purpose to sit there and kind of work. You have a part to play in the game. So finally the winning part is like you evolve spiritually. Okay. So she says that troubles of the present lose their seriousness when seen in the light of immortality. Successes and failures become passing incidents in the long panorama. Birth and death, how often they have been experienced. He realizes the profound truth voiced by Sri Krishna that since the dweller in the body ever cast away outworn bodies and ever reclothed himself in new, therefore, O son of Kunti, thou should not grieve. That means she is quoting how Krishna laid this out in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. He says that your body is just like a cloth. You're wearing this cloth of body today, and tomorrow I'm going to give you a new body. And I have already given you thousands of bodies, and I'm going to give you thousands more bodies, but the soul in you is the same. So you have gone through many deaths, many births, so fear not. Arjuna, the son of Kunti, is like Arjuna, where the conversation is happening between them. Such help, trust put in the way of our readers by the publication of this series of lives. May they find it a strong staff in days of trouble, and a torch throwing light upon the tangled path of life. So beautifully she says that this is a book, I want you guys to hold on to it, hold it as a staff. Read through it. Whenever you feel depressed or despair in life, you don't know what's the purpose, go through this and hold it on and trust my words that this is like, a small unit of a bigger game that is being played, and you're just a small part of it and you are taken care of. So we'll come to the proofs of how we are being taken care of, looking at So the next point is being theosophist, studying theosophy, the nature, the laws of nature, and more so of the physical nature of our body. What are the vehicles that we have? Our physical body is not just is the only part that we can see, but apart from that, we know that we have 7 other bodies and how we dwell in them, how we evolve, and all those things, right? So, from a theosophist point of view, it should be interesting to understand how this research was done, because this part cannot be understood by anybody other than a serious student of theosophy who understands the physical vehicles or vehicles of the soul. That means the body, different kinds of bodies we have. So the method they used for this, the ordinary plan is to use the faculties of causal body and simply read the record. In the way, the whole life under examination may be passed in review as quickly or as slowly as may be found convenient. It is usually best to run rapidly over the life and select from it such incidents as have the more far-reaching consequences, and then go back and describe those in some details. So this is one method of how they used to do the research. That means, how can I find out what is somebody's past life? So what is the method used? Yes, clairvoyance is the common answer, a big answer. But if you want to go detail into it, she's giving this for the benefit of the theosophist. She says that, we all have a causal body. If I have to find out your previous life, all I have to do is look at your causal body. Your causal body will have a permanent atom in which all the memories of all the lifetimes is being stored, is being recorded. You don't have a conscious ability to remember that in your physical brain, but that doesn't mean your causal body doesn't have it. So all she has to do is look at your causal body, look at that event, what happened in what lifetime, and kind of read a summary. Instead of reading the whole book, you can just read a summary or an abstract kind of. You can find the details there. That was one of the methods that they used. But she says, since many of these stories of the past, the investigators themselves have own part. Who's the investigators here? She's talking about herself and Leadbeater. And there were also a bunch or group of dedicated people who were helping Vidya Vasanth and Leadbeater record all the things. Now, when they're widely looking at examining the lives, they were not sitting and writing. They were dictating it, and somebody else was taking notes, and somebody else was given a picture. In the later lifetimes, you can actually see the picture of how that soul looked in that lifetime, a photographic picture. So some artists who had clairvoyance were given that thought of how Jamshed looks now. So then an artist in his clairvoyant vision, he's seeing how Jamshed is and he's drawing Jamshed's face. So literally that's how they picked up these pictures, which is beautifully presented to us. So since many of the people they were investigating were part of that group, so they thought they used a second method. What is the second method? A second method of inquiry has often been open to them to throw themselves back into those forms of long ago and actually live over again those stirring life, to feel once more what they felt thousands of years ago, to look upon the world from the strangely different viewpoint of an Indian ascetic, an Atlantean noble, or an Aryan invader. So what she's saying here is, now say for example we are investigating the life of Jamshed. Today I'm going to just pick on Jamshed, right? He's right here in front of me. So anyway, say we are investigating life of Jamshed, and in his previous lifetime he was a noble priest, right? Now if Jamshed is only going and looking at it, now he doesn't know what he felt in that lifetime as a noble priest. He's looking as an outsider, he's looking himself acting in a character, but he doesn't have all the feelings and emotions of what Jamshed experienced being a noble priest, right? So what they did was, instead of looking as an outsider, they said, okay, let's go back and live in that character again. So he's actually going and living in that character again, thinking of all the feelings and the emotions. Like say he's an Indian ascetic. How many Indian ascetics 30,000 years before, how he felt is different if I am sitting in this Asian era, observing myself being an ascetic, right? I said, oh, I was an ascetic, I did this, I did that, I did this puja, I did this ceremony, I lived for 100 years. But if I go into that role myself, then I will feel the emotions that was associated with me. So this is what they did. And she says that this was a difficult part, because imagine every person of them, 250 almost, at least they had a close band of 20 to 25 people who were helping Vidya Vasanth and Leadbeater. They all are willingly going back, experiencing this again, and bringing back all this information for us, details, just so to help people understand how their journey has been and give us assurance that our journey is going to be taken care of. Right? So, in this way, the stories are to the writers intensely vivid and dramatic. So, the situations so striking might be adequately portrayed. So, just want to do justice to the characters that they are portraying. Period dating has been done by strenuous labor and by much wearisome counting. She says the most difficult part of this research was the dating of the period, when actually it is happening, because they wanted to give a chronological order. They are examining one life after the other. So almost for 42 lives of J. Krishnamurti, they have not skipped even one lifetime. They have done a chronological order. They have checked, okay, how long did he live? Which century he was born? How many years did he live? How many years was he in his, heavenly life? Resting. How long was the soul was resting? Where was he born? What was his parents? They put this chart together. So they had to date it accurately, because this years of how much time we spend in the heavenly life is, is directly related or proportional to our spiritual growth. Now say for example, Fred is like very spiritual person, and he spends most of his time like studying theosophy, practicing theosophy and everything. And Jamshid is like aloof, partying all the time, not doing nothing. And that directly dictates how much time you're going to spend in your resting phase or heavenly phase, because a lot of spiritual growth happens over there. It's not just happening in this lifetime, because a lot of spiritual progress is happening over there. So if Tret is investing a lot of time in this lifetime being on the spiritual path, his time in the heavenly or the causal body phase is Kamaloka or the higher planes might be anywhere between 800 to average 1200 years he's going to spend. But sometimes there are people who spend, Plato for example, he spent 10,000 years in that plane because his spiritual progress was so much that he could benefit staying there, and the masters over there was teaching him and giving him all this, giving him opportunities to grow spiritually. Now say at the same time Jamshid has been partying all life, carefree, no spirituality, don't believe in God, I don't believe in nothing, I'm just live my life kind of person. Then there is no point in keeping him there and giving a spiritual life, because when he is not able to focus, when he has an actual dense body, he's not able to focus on the spirituality. No point in keeping there and wasting his lifetime. He'll be sent back in 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years. So the lifetime they spend over there is directly related to, that's what they found out during the process. What I'm trying to say is why they are very acute interest is when they saw the spiritual progress to the amount of time they spent over there. That was one of the conclusions they made, that the more spiritual you are, you get to learn more in your life after death phase. So starting from the point previously determined, and whenever possible, so what they used to see was last time where did we stop off, and from there they start counting. Whenever possible, the results obtained have been verified by some sort of cross-reference or by astronomical observation. He says that the dates listed here, Annie Besant and Leadbeater, they used to write it down, and they used to ask a couple of other clairvoyant friends do their own individual research. You go clairvoyantly, you go find out the same thing, you tell me a date, you don't see what date I have put in. So that's how they used to verify at least 3 to 4 people confirming the same time period. That's when they start writing, saying, if I say the first lifetime was 70,000 BC, that means at least 4 other clairvoyant people have confirmed independent research that that's the timeline. So that's why Annie Besant stressed that we have taken a lot of care to dating the period accurately. So I know this is a lot of information, but I don't know. I just want to put it out there so you can appreciate the kind of work that they have, okay, read back. So I'm just setting up the stage for you to understand where we are, the importance of these things. And as we look at it, it might seem easy, oh, this is just a chart they made. It's not just a chart. They worked their whole life to put these things together, and they took a lot of dedication from a lot of Theosophical members, and I think we should at least go through it, enjoy it, and at least learn from it a little bit, or appreciate it, if not, because I really enjoyed looking into it, and I was very curious, and it was just amazing for me. Right. Let's go to the next one. Okay. Now, having said that backdrop, now let's learn what is one of the important terms that we have to understand. The servers. When we say servers, who are these people? What are their purpose? And we need to understand this. Servers they call a band of people who have offered themselves to do a certain amount of hard work of the world, especially the work of the pioneer. When a new country is to be brought under civil cultivation, there must be men who will be the first to enter it, who will be willing for a long time to dispense with all the little conveniences which make existence bearable, to live roughly and to work hard. Without such preparatory labor, civilized life would never be possible. So, why this is important is, say for example, we have gone extensively about the cycles, the globes and how the chains, the cycles, the rounds and everything, right? So the end part of it is the root races. The root race is a series of qualifications that we have to pass, and we are progressing on the spiritual path. So you move from one root race to the next root race when you have attained a certain level of spiritual growth. To make this or to enable this, there is a certain set of groups of people who will be picked as pioneers. Pioneers meaning they should live a life of seclusion. They should just work, they will be working under the direct influence of the Manu. Now Manu is the father of the root race. He has a prototype. Now say for example, I want to build this laptop. I want to build a HP laptop with a certain configurations, certain motherboard, certain features for a camera, certain features for an audio, all these things. Now what he does is he gets from the let's say the planning committee, right, for lack of a better word, from the planning committee he gets a prototype. He says, for a person of the fifth root race, I want them to have certain type of body structure. Their causal bodies needs to be developed a certain way. The manas, that means the mind should be active. The intellect should be active. So to build that prototype, what he'll do is he'll look at the people in the fourth root race and he'll pick a few who have achieved everything that they can achieve in the fourth root race, and they should be willing to work with him. That means he's going to set them certain restrictions, a certain way of living, and they should be okay with it. They should not be the soul of like an Orion who's like wild and unpredictable, and one day he's okay with it and the next day he runs off from the community and he's gone and marrying somebody else. All those things is not going to happen. So when you commit yourself, you got to work with them for lifetime after lifetime. So these group of people, what we'll do is whenever there is a root race that needs to be started or a sub race that needs to be started, they will be called a band of servers. That means they will be picked up, they will be asked to set up a community, like make babies, Manu is going to take in that community, he is going to give his causal body to that group of people, so that way their body structure evolves. So this is a group of servers, meaning people who have committed to this kind of work, are willing to work with the Manu. When a new root race is to begin, the Manu in charge of the business must take a certain number of people and deal with them much as a pioneer deals with a new country. He must break up many of their customs, their prejudices, their way of thought, and implant in them others which are quite different. See, this is very important. First, if you are held to a certain custom, like, okay, I'm a Hindu, I don't believe any other religion is better than, I think every person should be converted into Hindu because I am so attached to my religion. If you are so attached to a certain entity, may it be religion, may be your nationality, may be your race or whatever it is, you are not a candidate, because you should be willing to let go of your prejudices, your preconditions, and be open to new things, explore new things, right? And you should be open to somebody else shaping your thoughts too. If the Manu will give you a thought saying that, okay, I think you're thinking Hinduism is very great, but I'm going to give you a different point of view. I'm going to give you a thought form where you can see the light of other religions too. But if you're resistant to it, he cannot work with you. He can give you that, but you should be willing to take it and work with it and evolve with it. So those are the kind of people he will pick for service. Difficult and complicated as it seems, it can be done more easily if the human material is docile, if it is to some extent accustomed to the process and willing to cooperate to the best of its abilities. You don't have to do it like in one day. He gives, to the best of the abilities, if every day you're willing to work on yourself, change your thoughts, change your customs, get out of your own conditioning, then you will be picked up as his band of service. Let me know if I'm going too fast, too slow, not making any sense. That's fine too. Please let me know. So, I'll come back. So, quality is expected in the band of service. Docility. That means we must be willing to follow him through all dangers and difficulties. Why I'm stressing on this point is I had to go through the whole book to pick this up a little bit, because we fall somewhere in this group. So this is clearly laid out by Anibizan and Leadbeater. Again and again they repeat, anybody who has come into contact with the Theosophical Society, who has been given this knowledge or even coming into this organization, the masters feel you have a potential. You have a potential, we are giving you this, take this knowledge and see what you can do. So we are the potential candidates, she says. Doubt not that you are not even on his list, because even for you to come into this organization, to get this kind of environment and family for you to grow, family meaning a society, members and a group support for you to grow, means the masters already have thought of you. That means you have a potential, and she says that look at these characteristics that they are looking. Evaluate yourself. Do you have all these? If not, work on it. Take this lifetime as a as a challenge, or not as a challenge, as a goal to achieve this, right? So let's focus on what are the things that they are expecting from us. Docility. We must be willing to follow him through all dangers and difficulties, eager to take any hint he throws to us, always ready to put aside personal desires and feelings for the sake of the work that has to be done. Comprehension of at least the broad outline of the work as will enable to cooperate intelligently what in present age we call an interest in theosophy. So that means comprehension, meaning that just don't think, okay, this is it, I'm born, I'm going to die, I'm not going to think of who knows what is there in the future, who knows there is an incarnation, who knows there is a loss of karma. I'm not seeing that guy is doing all the bad things and he's still having a wonderful life, so I'm just going to live like him. Yes, if you are that kind of person, you are hopeless, because you need to have a bigger picture and understanding. At least if you're not able to, I don't know, I don't have any clairvoyance, I don't know if there is reincarnation or not, this is all a bunch of fictional something somebody had to write up. If you are at that level, useless. But at least if you're not able to experience yourself, at least believe that whatever they are saying, I'm not able to go and see my whole old life or future life, but I believe, I trust this person, so I'm just going to comprehend. At least there is a work that needs to be done. And what that translates to this present age is, we call an interest in theosophy. That means we all are on the same boat. So at least we have interest in theosophy. That means we have a good comprehension that life is not just this one lifetime and we have something before and after. Patience, for without that we shall assuredly fall out by the way in the long march of evolution and become discouraged at the sanctity of the visible results from all the endeavors. So that means we need to have patience. It's not just what results you're seeing today and tomorrow in this lifetime, but there's a bigger picture playing around. So just be patient, and whatever happens is happening for the good. Just believe that. Industry. The inflow of energy from behind that keeps us moving in spite of all hindrances. The flywheel that carries us over the dead point of exhaustion and despondency. That means you should always be energetic to do the master's work. You should always be energetic in seeking out the knowledge or whatever it is that you can do on a day-to-day basis. Just do it with utmost energy and commitment. Adaptability and comradeship. So that we may learn to work together as a whole, to trust one another and make allowances for one another. This adaptability is being that, okay, sometimes within the Theosophical Society members and as an organization, we see that there is a lot of misunderstanding, different directions of each people, they don't get along. But this, ultimately you have to believe, okay, whatever it is, we are doing this for the same goal of serving the masters. At least have that much understanding, as much as upward, misunderstandings you might have, you should be willing to accommodate that person, even if you don't agree with them. So these are the 5 qualities she lays out, important for one to be considered as part of the group. Now, I want to give a little bit a structure of the band of service. Now you see here, we or Annie Besant and Leadbeater when they did the research, they studied on the band of service. Like say, there are many band of service. Like she says that we don't know how many bands of service are there. But we are focusing only on this group of people who are associated with the Theosophical Society. That doesn't mean there are nobody else and we are some extraordinarily selected people for the masters and we are somehow being ranked very high. No, we are only a small group of many infinite groups that the master is working with. Now, she says in this group of band of service that they did the research on, around approximately 250 people they have identified. But she says that 250 people is only 1/10 of the whole group. Like that means there are more in the same group that it's not possible for them to identify everybody. Now within this group there will be subgroups. So you can see that certain group of people, like 5 or 6 people within this 250 people are always together, or 10 or 15 people are always together. So there are ways how these subgroups are formed, how the main group is formed. And one thing that she saw was like, this is for the later part, the third part of it, root races, I'll come to that later. But she knows that there are more bands of service because for the first subrace, the second subrace and the third subrace, right? The group of service which we are studying, which is part of the J. Krishnamurti group, we can say, which involves the masters. Right. So this group of people that we are studying, right? So they have a definite proof that this group of people were being used to start the first subrace, the second subrace and the third subrace. But when it comes around starting the fourth subrace and the fifth subrace of the fifth root race, now everybody, we all are almost in the fifth root race and maybe fourth or fifth subrace. So when the fourth or fifth subrace was being started by the Manu, these group of people were nowhere to be found. But they were prominent people for the first, second and third subrace. So that's where she concludes, since none of us were used for the fourth and fifth, probably there is another group that proves that there is another group of people who are helping the Manu do the same work that we did. So that doesn't mean that gives us proof that we are not exclusive members. Like, there are many group of people who are working. And also she says, the Bodhisattva was taken birth as Sri Krishna and as in Palasan as Jesus. She says, this first, second, third, fourth, fifth subgroup people, none of them were found anywhere close to that. But he still had people who were helping him in that incarnation to do the work that he needs to do. But that proves there is a third group of people. So she says, by this we conclude, see how scientifically she's putting this forth. Like it's not like, okay, I'm saying you believe, because she says she's giving with evidence that these are completely different type of group of people. This gives us complete assurance that it's not just one group that the Manu is working on, is working with a number of groups that we cannot even comprehend. Right. So any questions? Is everybody understanding, not understanding? Okay. Already went through that. Can I see? I think we have 5 minutes time. I'll just go through these 2 slides. I'll not get into the details of the life tags. Probably next class we can look into that. So what determines the place and time of a birth? First force, that what determines where you are born, why you are born, as what you are born in this. First one is a force of evolution, which places each man where he can most readily acquire the qualities in which he happens to be deficient. That means wherever you are born today, the force of evolution has put you in the right place where whatever is deficient in you, you can learn. Second, the law of karma, which limits the action of the first force. Say the force of evolution really wants you to grow spiritually, but you have a karma preventing it. That means you had a certain, very bad relationship with somebody, and that person is taken birth now, and there is a other place you could be born. Say you are born in India, but there is a place and a family in America where you could be very spiritually evolving in that family, but you have a karma for that, because that person who is born in India, for many lifetimes you both have been fighting, and you have to neutralize that energy, because that force of karma is not going to let you be born in America and grow spiritually. It will push you to go be born with that person as his son, as his daughter, have a family issues. Whatever it is in that lifetime, you should try to get over and nullify that effect of karma. So it's the same way with the good karma too. If you have certain good karmas, telling you, today is jinx. Yeah. Zoom is on. Is the Zoom people able to see?
Yeah.
5 more minutes, please hold on. Okay, that's the law of karma, which is the second point. Third, the law of attraction, which brings the man again and again into connection with those other egos with whom he has already formed links of some kind. So if you have already formed certain relationship or kind of attraction between
We lost online audio.
Start touching. Start farming. I know. So the third one is the law of attraction, which brings the man again and again. If you already have associated with a certain kind of soul, it might, a law of attraction can be positive and negative. So just bear in mind. Okay, I'll just finish it anyway. We are on time. So we usually find these laws acting in order assigned to them above. That means the first one is a law of evolution, second comes the law of karma, third is the law of attraction. They act in the same order. And this is for all the entire world. But there is an excuse made for the group of service. For the group of service, the karma, the karma of previous lives decide to great extent the kind of existence we will have. And it is also known, okay, that part I said. It is also true that the length of a man's life in the heaven world is determined by the amount of spiritual force which he has generated while on earth. This one we discussed a little bit earlier. Exceptions for the band of service. This is important to see. Enquiry has shown that in case of band of service, these rules which ordinarily operate are subordinate to the purpose of the group. That means if you are a chosen server, that means these laws which we listed off, the law of evolution, law of karma, law of attraction, they will be skipped. The first law applies for those people is the purpose of the group. So if there is a purpose for that to incarnate, for that group to incarnate in a certain place, certain country, do certain work, the rest of the laws are nullified for them. They're going to be pulled into this work. So it is the essence of the membership that the band, one should be ready to put aside all feelings and interest of the individual for the sake of the whole. This applies to birth taken too. That means, say for example, Jamshed has a lover, so he's very much attached to this soul, and every lifetime after lifetime they have been born together. At the same time, Jamshed is also part of a band of service. So for the past 10 lifetimes, he's been associated with this soul so closely, and now his work for the serving, to be born as in a certain group, comes. When the call comes, Jamshed should be ready to drop taking incarnation with this soul which he is very attached to, and be able to go there and work with that group, because there is certain work that he has to do over there. If you are not ready for that, then you are not a suitable candidate, is what they are saying. So that means as much as we are attached to a certain kind of country, there are attachments, believe me, there are many people are attached to certain races that they say that Jewish people, they don't want to retake birth in any other race, and they always want to take birth as Jewish people. And there are certain sect of Brahmins in India who think that they are a selected group, they are very superior, and they don't want to take birth in any other group because they have that complex of superiority. So they are not putting the group's work above. So when you are a certain kind of soul who has attached to certain these outwardly measures of life, then you will not be part of that group, or you will not be doing justice to the group. So always your aim should be to be part of the group, or help the group, purpose of the group, I mean to say. For the servers, the third of the great factors comes first. That means instead of the individual karma, the need of the group is more important. Members of this band, whether emotional or intellectual, spiritual or material in disposition, have come down through the ages together, and the fact of their association has always been really dominant influence in their life, and most important element in determining the time and place of their rebirth. That means these band of people, whatever their state is, whether they're an intellectual person or a spiritual person, or a spiritual or emotional person, whatever there is, but when there is a call for the purpose of the group, you should be willing to take birth wherever it is necessary and live the kind of lifestyle that is necessary. I think we can, if permits, I just wanted to show you this one, so you can take a note of that. So this is a main characters of the story. So here you can see these the names that I have marked. I are able to see. So the names that I have marked in the red are the souls that we are going to be studying closely. So you can see here the 4 Kumaras, Lords of the Flame, now living in Shambhala. I'll go through that later. The Mahaguru, who is a Bodhisattva of the time, appearing as Vyasa, Zoroaster, Orpheus' son, who is now the Gautama. Surya, who is currently the Lord Maitreya. Surya, now the names on this left-hand column, as I said, is the star names that we have just given a soul name. It's not their actual name, but just to identify life after life. Manu, Manu is a Vaivasvata Manu, founder and head of the 5th root race. Viraj, Mahachohan. Saturn is Master Venetian. Jupiter, Agassi Maharishi, who lives currently in the Nilgiris. Dhruva, who is a master of Master KH. Mars and Mercury, these 2 names you have to remember. Mars is Master Maurya. Mercury is Master KH. I think next week I'm going to start quizzing you guys and then start the class. So if you guys don't remember this, there's no fun in the story. So definitely you have to remember the red ones, right? Red one's very important. Mars and Mercury, very important. You need to know who is who. Master Maurya and Master KH. And Neptune, Orisis, Brihat, Venus, Uranus, Vulcan, and Athena. See, everything on this right column you saw, they are all masters. They are already done with their spiritual growth and leveled up to the master level. The persons on people listed on this right-hand side are still in progress, or they might have right now, but I don't know. But when the book was written, that's how it's listed. So I just put it there. So Alchemy is, of course, J. Krishnamurti, around whom the story will start revolving. But you can see that many other people play a very important role. Corona is Julius Caesar. In this, like we can identify the name Julius Caesar, so that's who he is. Corona. Heracles. This you should remember. Heracles, Anibazan. Again and again and again, she's going to be coming, right, with respect to alchemy. Nizar, he's J. Nityananda. You know, Nityananda was a brother of J. Krishnamurti in this lifetime. But again, very, very important to understand relationship with alchemy and Nizar, because they were very closely related in this lifetime, and you can see that they have been related past 50 lifetimes. Every lifetime they have been born together. And along with that is Sirius, is Leadbeater himself. So these 3 people, right, they call them the triplets. Alchemy, Nizar, and Leadbeater. That means J. Krishnamurti's brother Nityananda, and Leadbeater. They name them the triplets because they are always in love, always being born together, always like brothers, fathers, whatever. They always have a very positive mutual relationship. And Vajra, never to forget, Vajra meaning in the Sanskrit word is called a diamond. So except for that name, all the names are given as based on the stars or something, but that was a name they gave to H.P. Blavatsky because the masters used to call her that, it seems, because she was like a diamond-hearted person and she was such a strong willed person and she was super dominant force in everything and everywhere she went. So that Vajra, they gave her the name of a diamond. So these names, if you can remember, probably next time that we meet, we can start with the stories part of it. And if you are able to see this. So this is the first 15 lives of alchemy. You can see the first one starts at 70,000 BC in the Gobi Sea. Interval between lives is 32, length of life is 40. Root race is the 5th root race, sub-race is the first sub-race. You can see it goes down from 70,000, he's born next, immediately after, you think the 70,000 span, and then there is a break of 10,000 years. Can you believe it? 10,000 years is not born. is nowhere to be found. But it's not a consecutive. Now, when I come to that, from that 70,000 to 60,000, you can see that there's a 10,000 years gap. It doesn't mean that he was not born. He was not born for the purpose as a band of server. So the first 5 lifetimes is not consecutive, but the rest all is consecutive. So that is only when he was picked to work as a band of server, it comes up. So I think next class we can kind of go through the rest of them. Yeah. No. That's as far as they could go. But it is being told that these group of people were picked up 1 million years ago by the Manu. So they are going back very long time. And it's his individualization from the animal to the human form happened in the moon chain, in the third chain, in the moon, when we were living on the moon. So that's where he kind of individualized, and that's where Mars and Mercury, which is Master Maurya and Master Kuthumi, were in their family as a monkey. So that's where his individualization kind of happened, because he was in close association with the humans. So it's very far away, but we just picked up somewhere in between. So anybody online, any questions? I think we are going to close the session right now. We're about time, and I'm not able to see anything online.
Yes. Can you say a little more about Manu?
Hope you guys are able to see the presentation. Just leave me online. Hi, John. Hi, Lee. Any questions?
Yes. Can you speak more about Manu, the beginning of all this?
Well, I want to thank you, Vidya, for helping with the presentation today. We will continue her presentation later. I think about 2 or 3 more. But just a quick reminder, we decided to do the Houston Food Bank, right? Saturday, March the 11th. Yep. So I will book that, and I hope everybody can make it there and join us. And then we will be back in 2 weeks and resume the current study group on the Secret Doctrine, the final section, which is very long, and then continue from there. All right, thank you, and I wish everyone a happy weekend. Bye.